Just prior to the Civil War, a sea drama took place that will serve well to show that God is in control of the events of life, and that even wars do not catch him off guard, nor interfere with his plans for man. Just before the war, according to James Gibbs' research in a book called Pacific Riggers by Bonanza Books, one of the most bizarre dramas of sea adventure took place in the year 1860. On September 22nd of that year, the whaling ship Hope was becalmed in the dangerous ice floes of the Tierra del Fuego Islands at the southernmost tip of South America. When it happened to come upon a huge ice mass that had drifted far northward from the frozen wastelands of the Antarctic. All aboard the Hope were peering at the great wall of the most beautiful iceberg that many had ever seen. Suddenly, Captain Britain, master of the Hope, ordered the men to heave ho. Then, in frightening astonishment, they lined the railing. Before their very eyes, the walls of the ice mass began to crack and split open, so that large chunks of ice parted and drifted away into the current. Then, at first, though peering through a thick, imperfect glass, they saw a weird outline of a deserted ship. Most of them thought it was a reflection of their ship, but as they looked and strained their eyes, it was obvious that this wasn't their ship, but it was a ship that had been trapped in the iceberg. The ice came crashing down, and there before them stood an old schooner. In silent awe, they stood spellbound. Quickly, Captain Britain ordered a boatload, and he and some volunteers rowed to the mystery ship. As they came close, they were able to make out the faded letters across her bow. The name of the ship, Jenny. On climbing aboard, they walked on moss-green decks and were immediately confronted with lifelike scenes of death, frozen crew members, and passengers. In the main cabin were 8 men, a woman, and a dog, sitting or laying in the same position as when they had died, all perfectly frozen like wax museum figures. The deep freeze had done its job well and kept them as if they were alive. In the master's cabin, the skipper was found still sitting at his chair. In his hand was clutched a quill pen, and on his writing table in front of him lay the faded ship's log. In scratchy letters, he had painfully penned his last entry dated May 4th, 1823. It read, "No food for 71 days. I am the only one left alive." For 37 freezing years had passed since the Jenny's master had made that final entry. The schooner had become trapped in the ice on January 17, 1823. The log told how the ship had gradually become locked in the ice. As the agonizing weeks rolled by, the ship became encased and was frozen solid. The log showed that her departure port had been Lima, Peru, and the food aboard had lasted for 5 weeks, and then came that terrible ordeal of exposure and starvation that added to claim all hands on deck. The ship's master had hung on to the bitter end until his feeble frozen hands had made the last entry, and then he too froze to death. The eerie, haunting scene prompted but a short visit by the crew of the Hope. They hightailed it out of there. They gathered up the log and navigational instruments and a few pieces of equipment and rowed back to their ship. They had elected not to bury the dead, but to leave them at rest aboard the rotting ship. The very next morning, that Jenny was almost fully released from the ice. Her seams had opened up, and she began to fall to pieces. As the crew of the Hope stood by, still in disbelief, they watched the Jenny sink beneath the surface of the sea and swallow up her dead. On arriving back to England, the Hope's master, Britain, had reported the facts of his discovery to the British Admiralty and presented the log as proof. In the archives today, that log exists, relating one of the most unusual tales of sea adventure. The longer I'm a Christian, the more I am seeing and learning that we're serving a God of order and precision. Nothing is accidental to God. Nothing catches Him off guard. His timing is always perfect, and there are no accidents with His dealing with the affairs of man in this universe. God does not walk around heaven wringing His hands saying, "Oh no, now look what happened. Oh me, oh my, what am I going to do?" The story I just told you shows us a small glimpse into God's great control over the events of man. Think with me how timely it was for the ship Hope to be exactly at the right spot in a huge ocean thousands of miles long as wide when the wind ceased. No wind, no sail in those days. The ship Hope lay in a flat, calm water with nothing in sight but a beautiful, huge iceberg that had drifted far north from its home. Think of the odds of a misplaced iceberg, of a ship in a calm, and an undiscovered ship trapped for 37 freezing years, all at the precise place and moment in time. And to have it melt and expose the lost ship at that very moment is beyond human understanding. Had Captain Britain mastered the Hope been there 2 days later, the Jenny would have already melted loose and sunk, and no one would have ever known of her fate. What timing! What a mighty God we serve, who controls people, times, events, and yes, wars. In like manner, the Civil War came upon this nation, perhaps catching its citizens off guard, but not God. Listen to Isaiah chapter 55, 9 through 11. "For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways, God, higher than yours, man. My thoughts are higher than your thoughts. For as the rain comes down and the snow from heaven, and returneth not back, but waters the earth, and makes it bring forth the bud, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth. It will not return void, but it will accomplish that which I please, and it will prosper in the thing that I have sent it to do." I'm not blaming God for the Civil War, but you see, God used the Civil War for His glory and His purpose, as we'll see on most of the next 18 devotions. I tell you, we serve a mighty God. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow before Him, heaven and earth adore Him. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow before Him, heaven and earth adore Him. What a mighty God we serve.